Holy shit. Jrue, Dame, we got a big trade in the NBA. And people, at least some people, seem to be really high on Jrue Holiday to the point where they don't like the trade for the Bucks. I think that's crazy. I think Dame is such an enormously massive upgrade on offense. And I don't think Jrue is the defender that a lot of people think he is. I don't think he's been an elite, best in the league level defender for the last couple of years. And I'm hoping to be able to articulate in this video why I think that. This is going to be not super long or detailed because I wanted to get this out as soon as possible. But Jrue is still a very good defender. Don't get that wrong. He's still really great winning with his hands. Some of the best hands in the league and always has had those. So good swiping down on drives and such for deflections and steals no matter who he's guarding or who he's being guarded by. And against point guards without incredible handles, he can be so overwhelming and just smothering with his footwork and with his hands and with his aggression. Guys who have loose handles generally or aren't super great about keeping control are Jrue food. They really are. He's going to eat them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that's what he has done his whole career, and that's what he still is able to do. Look at him just attack Trey Mann there. Especially against rookies, or not rookies, I guess, but young players like Trey Mann, who don't have great handles. Jrue sees that loose handle, he's going to snatch it. That's what he does. And again, when the Bucks corner a ball handler, Jrue can be pretty good using his hands up, steal. This is just good awareness, good scheme, team defense from Jrue and the Bucks. And I think some of the highest value things he does on defense are the long steals, where he's reading this pass back to the popping big man and runs, intercepts this pass like a DB and goes all the way to end up getting his team a point. These kind of really long instinct steals, again, shooting over from the corner to steal the ball from a center bringing the ball up. Jrue recognizes that this guy probably isn't going to be looking at the weak corner here, and he can just go run at the ball. He fires at the ball like a linebacker going to try to force a fumble or something, and he's going for it extremely hard, and he's getting a lot of these steals. He always has. But the thing with steals like this is that they're gambles. If Siakam turns around, pivots, and looks the other way, this is a wide open three. And I think these gambles don't work out as much as they need to, given the way that Jrue plays. He's so always ready to jump at the ball and is too lenient in leaving his guy off of the ball. I think the off-ball defense has been a big, or at least a notable issue for Jrue ever since going back to his Pelicans days. And the lack of consistency, and again, the fact that Jrue doesn't show here, he could easily show here without losing his feet and understanding that he's going to give up a wide open three by making a defensive play like that. And even though Jrue can hang with guys like Luka occasionally, he's still winning and losing gambles. We see him go for the steal right here. Doesn't work. Because he's really strong and has great footwork and can hang and contest with bigger players sometimes, he can get back and make life difficult for Luka. But even when things are going well there, it's a gamble. And I think the gambling extends to his pick and roll defense as well, which I think is often lauded as a big strength for him. And it still is in a lot of ways, but it isn't in others. And just the way the Bucks have always played pick and roll defense, it's force your guys into Brook Lopez. Force them to make difficult shots in this area and let Brook clean up. But that scheme requires a defender at the point of attack to attach to the hip of whatever pick and roll ball handler is here to not allow them to get open pull-up threes, to get wide open mid-ranges. And Jrue, these days, tends to cut off really hard in one direction. Look at him hard slide to the left here to cut off this drive. And initially it works great. But the thing is, when Terrence Ross spins back, Jrue is way out of position because of how hard he played that. And that is a wide open three for an NBA shooter that he's lucky rimmed out. and didn't end up falling. But the gamble-heavy strategies, especially against quicker players, just don't end up working out. Where we see the same kind of situation where Jrue hard jumps to the right expecting Monk to use this screen, but he wisely goes behind the back, stops on a dime. Jrue is not in position to recover, and that's a wide open pull-up jumper. And this kind of stuff happens way too often for me to consider Jrue one of the league's best defenders. And not only that, but the off-ball defense, awareness, effort, motor stuff is too low for me to really consider him a top guard defender in the league. When it comes to those guys, Derek White, Alex Caruso, Marcus Smart, even Dylan Brooks these days, you don't see plays like this very often where he's just ball watching the entire time and lets his man slip by him. This happens a couple times a game for Jrue, and that's just not good enough, especially at the highest levels in important moments. This is simply not good enough. I don't really know how else to say it, where I think Jrue's positioning here is solid to deny the interior pass while also positioning Harden, but your closeout just has to be better. Like, it has to be better. You cannot be allowing James Harden to walk into 10-foot pull-ups that are wide open. You just can't. And I understand that some of this is scheme dependent, is trusting Brook and Giannis to be there, but it is still on the perimeter defender to make this at least a little bit difficult. And when we're talking about a guy who is one of the best in the league, I just don't think that's an accurate description. And even though Jrue can be really effective off the ball early, as we saw, there's just too much lag in his processing, where, again, we see the Mavs call Spain pick and roll here. He's originally on Luka, but Jrue has to get switched off. They don't like to switch in Milwaukee. And when they have to switch, things tend to get hairy. But Jrue has to know where the gap is. And he has to know that Giannis's job here is to protect the rim with Luka driving against the mismatch. And Christian Wood is just wide the hell open. And again, it's just not good enough overall. It's the little plays like this that I think a lot of NBA fans or more casual watchers just don't really think about. But this is not good enough nail help, where Jrue needs to be here. He should be here right now, especially given how deep Gabe Vincent is spotting up. And you see Jrue eventually realizes that he should probably try to help, but it's just way too late at that point. Kyle Lowry's already passed, and this is not an easy play to make. I'm not saying it is. This play requires really impressive instincts and awareness and just an understanding of momentum and where the play is going, but that's what you expect from the best defenders in the league. These are the kind of plays that Derek White and Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart and Alex Caruso and all these guys make on a nightly basis. And it's the plays that you have to make to be one of these elite NBA defenders. And even when the positioning is good, it just looks like Jrue doesn't move that fast off of the ball. This is a good X out by Jrue. He stands right in the middle here, and then he takes the first pass. This is what you're supposed to be doing. But this is a pretty open shot. For most NBA players, this is not a good enough contest. He obviously gets lucky with a miss, but the urgency just doesn't really seem to be there as an off-ball defender. And I think it's been like this for a couple of years now, but I think this last year especially, it was definitely noticeable. And these are the things that make the difference between a good, great, and an elite defender. And that difference obviously is really important. And when it comes to the on-ball defense against these top-level stars, there are really no point-of-attack defenders who can stop the best perimeter scorers in the league. They are too good, too skilled, too strong. The rules of the NBA are too offensively slanted to where there are going to be moments where Jrue can get stops on Jimmy with his length and get blocks on pull-ups, and there's going to be good moments. But we should not forget that Jrue was kind of embarrassed in the playoffs by Jimmy Butler. And again, the screen navigation is inconsistent at this point, but when it's good, it's really good. He blows through Capella, sticks with DeAndre Hunter, is able to contest that pull-up. This is perfect Buck scheme defense. What I was talking about earlier is in order to funnel into Brook Lopez, you need someone to stay attached at the point of attack. And that's what he does right here beautifully. to allow Lopez to contest. Jrue in there with the contest as well. It's really good stuff. And this is also what drives high-level defensive value from Jrue, is when he's gliding around screens with his great agility and footwork, because he definitely can do this. Even though we talked about the gambles earlier, there's still so many moments where Jrue is defending screens at a high level, which I guess makes it all the more frustrating to me how much he doesn't do it, because he obviously can. It's not like an athletic deficiency, or maybe like a tiny bit at this point, but he can do it. And the thing is even when he is doing it, the best players in the league are going to win regardless. You can defend Luka perfectly, but he is still going to score over you because he is enormous, has incredible touch, and is incredibly skilled. Against the league's best, especially guard-sized point-of-attack defenders, even bigger ones, are really, really hopeless. And I think that's what I want people to, understand with this trade. Yes, individually, the defensive downgrade from Jrue to Lillard is massive. But the Bucks scheme has always revolved around Brook and Giannis at the rim and funneling towards them. And while Jrue is definitely a big defensive loss, the offensive upgrade is undescribable. Jrue is a good offensive player who has struggled in the playoffs on offense, especially the last couple of years. Dame is the opposite. He gets better in the playoffs, especially on offense. And he's coming off one of his best offensive seasons of his career last year. Him and Giannis are a perfect fit. And plays like this, even if you have Dame guarding Luka, he probably gets cooked. But you know what? So does Jrue. On stuff like this, there just aren't guards in the league who can defend this. There is nobody. Defense is a team game in much more of a way than offense can be an individual game when you have players like Luka or Giannis or Dame. So overall, I think Jrue is still a very good player. Don't get me wrong. He's still probably a top 40 player in the league. And I imagine he gets traded again and will be useful in a contender somewhere else. But for Damian Lillard, it is a loss that you are going to be more than willing to stomach. Largely because I don't think he is that game-changing elite defender. If that was the case, then maybe this is different. But given how much more important offense is than defense, obviously that's overly simplifying stuff, but it's just the way it is, and how good Dame is on offense and the limitations that Jrue has defensively these days are really important. And I think that makes this just such an enormous win for the Bucks.